What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I just want to give you an update video, show you where I'm at. I haven't got a whole lot done in the past couple months just because I've been at truck driving school trying to get my CDL. That was like 28 hours a week for 8 weeks. So that on top of work, I just didn't leave me a whole lot of time out here to get something done. So I'm going to show you some parts that I got and show you where I'm at. Also, I put out a poll at the beginning of last month, beginning of November, just to see what you guys thought, or basically I had two options. It's either I build this motor and just build it all out and put it in the Camaro and be done with it, or I could build this motor as more of a mild build and throw it in the truck, and then once I pull the motor out of the truck, the old motor out of the truck, I can do a max effort build and put that in the Camaro. So I give you guys the option. Basically, it makes me no difference. I'm going to build one of these either way. I think it'd be cool to do more of a street build, just a mild, like probably what you guys would be doing more likely. Nobody's going to be putting one of these in a race car, but except for me. But yeah, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do option 2, where I just build a mild build with this one and put it in the truck, and probably around like 300 horsepower, like 280, 300 horsepower build, something like that. And then when I get that motor out of the truck, I'm going to build it as more of a max effort, probably like 450 horses, going to be the goal for that. So that's the plan. All right, so I did send the stock cams off to Brian Crowder in California. They did regrind them, and they said it'd be like a 3-week turnaround time. It ended up being more like 6 weeks. But I did get these back. They are reground. It's not much to look at here. It looks like a stock camshaft, but it's a stock cam, just reground. Nothing crazy. But I got both the intake and exhaust done here. So because of that, or now that I got these back, I should say, I'm able to figure out what I need to do with the cylinder head, and as far as the port dimensions and what I need to do with that, and the valve sizes and all that. All right, so down to the nitty-gritty part that you guys want to see. Basically, I've been working on the cylinder head, porting it out, and so far I've been spending most of my time on the exhaust side because it's pretty intuitive and pretty simple. It's not a whole lot of that I can mess up with that right now, but I have gone through both these intake ports and measured them and mapped them out, so I know the dimensions from the flange all the way to the valve, and how the port changes shape and everything. I've mapped all that out. I got all the areas and the volumes for that. So now that I got the camshaft back, I know how much valve timing and lift that I'm going to be running, and I know the valve size, obviously, so I know exactly how big I need to make the port to optimize the port shape and size for the camshaft that I have now. So now that I have that, I can set all this up. You can see I started roughing in part of this intake side here, and like I said, I've been working on the exhaust side mostly just because it's not as critical as the intake side, but there's a couple areas on the exhaust side here that right around this area on both sides, on the inside edge here, that had like this giant nub that stuck out, and I ground it all the way and made it smooth. And then the valve guide area, obviously the boss around the valve guide, I have contoured that and made it into just a general, like a Honda, like you would see on like a 4-cylinder Honda. It works for them, so it would work for this as well. But I still need to do the back side of this. As the port comes out, I've only made it about halfway up that port, as you can probably see there. And then this intake side, now that I know what to do with it or what size I need to be, I can start opening this up. This one here, you can't really see because it's dark, but it's got a swirl port in there. So not much. I don't want to affect that very much, because I don't want to lose any swirl as the intake charge goes into the cylinder. So my biggest problem with these, though, is the valves. So the exhaust valves are great, not a problem with those. These are a stainless valve from the factory. They look great. The valve valve angle still needs to be cut or recut. See if I can get it to focus. There you go. But yeah, it looks good. I need to clean it up a little bit. There's just a couple dirty spots on there still. But as far as the condition of the valve, it's in good shape. They all use these triple grooves on here. But all the exhaust valves look great. So the intake valves, on the other hand, are not in such a great shape. These are not stainless valves. So the intakes are not stainless. But you can see that there's like pitting on the back side of this valve, and it's on the majority of these. Some of these are worse than others, but you can see how bad it is on some of these, and I'm not comfortable with running that. So the problem is you can't get these valves from GM anymore. They're all on back order. At least, I'm not saying you can't get them anymore, but right now all the intake valves are on back order, and you can't just run down to the dealer and order something that's on back order, because they won't do it unless you can find a dealer that's willing to order something that's on back order. Mine locally won't do that. I can't find any place online also that will allow me to order parts from GM that's on back order. So that basically leaves me up to, now I need custom valves, because of course these valves are not a common size. They're real close to the Ford Coyote valves, but the Coyote valves are a lot longer than this. They're almost a ½ inch longer. So I've been trying to source and do a lot of research and figure out what, valve is close to this, or at least something I can work with, but I'm not having any luck. These are pretty unique, unfortunately. So that basically leaves me with the option of, I need to make custom valves or order custom valves. So that's the reason why I'm doing this video today, just because I haven't ordered these yet and I don't know what the lead time is. But right now, it's winter of 2022, so lead times are probably 8-10 weeks on valves is what I'm hearing. So, but I haven't talked to any companies yet. I have a few companies in mind that I want to have these, or have make these valves for me. But that's where I'm at. But the thing is, if I'm going to run a custom valve, I'm not going to run a stock size. I'm going to put a bigger head in it. I really, really, really wanted to use as many stock components in this build as I could, but there's not much I can do about ordering stock valves. So I'm going to put a custom valve in it, probably put a little bit larger valve in it. But when it comes to a larger valve on this head, as you can see where the head gasket goes here. There's not a whole lot of area between the valve and, or the valve seat and the gasket area. So you can't go much bigger on the valve, but you can. There's a little bit of room there. I think if I go probably another 50 thousandths larger, it'll match this port nicely. So I can not take away a ridiculous amount of material. I can just basically just smooth the port out, and it'll match with this valve and the camshaft that I have now. Because like I said, I mapped all these ports out. I took the dimensions of the port from the flange all the way to the back side of the valve, and got all those dimensions and areas for both runners, even the exhaust side. And I got all the dimensions for that, and knowing the cam that I have now, I can get the right size valves. And if I get a bigger valve, then it's going to change this area. I'm going to need more area here if I put a bigger valve in it. So anyway, long-winded answer there, but that's basically where I'm at on this. I am going to put some bigger springs in it. I did get a set of comp springs that I'm going to throw in there, but of course, finding a spring that's this diameter is difficult, especially if you're trying to find a heavier spring. So you got to go with the bigger diameter spring, which means you have to cut the valve pocket out of the head to fit the bigger spring, which is a whole ordeal. I'm trying to do all this, as much machining as I can myself, but that costs money. I've spent a lot of money on tooling, and I got a lot of stuff that's still not here yet because the holidays shipping is being ridiculous. But I'm investing a lot of money in tooling as well. So next, these pistons. So I am going to use the stock pistons in this mild build that's going back in the truck. I don't want to drop $2,200 on a set of aftermarket pistons that's just going to be street driven. So the stock pistons will work well. If I do get a bigger valve size, I'm also going to have to open up this valve pocket area a little bit. And I also want to check, once I get the cylinder head done, I want to check piston and valve clearance. And I might need to cut this deeper, or these valve pockets deeper if I need to. But the cam is only like 20 thousandths more lift, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. But the duration is may contact the pistons. I'm not really sure, so that's something I'm going to have to check when I get to that point. But I'm also, since I'm using stock pistons, I'm kind of limited on how big I can make the block and the bore in the cylinder, so I am going to send these pistons off and get a coating, get a skirt coating, and you can get them to where it'll add like 1,000th or 2 to the diameter of the piston, so it'll tighten up the bore clearance a little bit in there. So I am planning on sending these off to get coated probably after the first of the year. And once I get these cleaned up the rest of the way, you can see I got this one cleaned up. I got this one soaking right now, and then these two are next. So as soon as I can get these cleaned up, I'm going to ship them off and get them coated. Also, almost forgot, I did have some custom piston rings made. I got in contact with Total Seal, and now that I know the size of the block and how much, knowing that I'm going to be using these pistons again, I had them make me a set of piston rings. So I didn't want to run just a factory ring. I wanted a better ring in there. So got in touch with them. They sent me these. I got the gapless rings and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's a 2mm, the top ring on this, or the ring pack, factory ring pack in this. It's a 2mm top ring, a 1.5mm second ring, and a 2mm oil ring. So on a 3.7-inch bore. So there's the part number and stuff like that. If you guys want it. But yeah, so those are the numbers for those. I will be putting that on these pistons. So that took like 2 months to get those, so just keep that in mind as well. Lead times right now are ridiculous on everything. Lastly, as far as the block goes, I got it completely tore apart, except for, I still need to take these oil squirters out of here. But tore it all the way down, got the main caps out, took a look at all the bearings. These bearings look great. Like, this is the only one that really showed any signs of wear. This is the very front bearing. It's got that one spot in it right there. But you look at the rest of these and it's like, man, I could probably throw these back in there and use them. But we'll see. I got some bearings coming from GM as well. They have like 3 different sizes, so I ordered just one bearing in all 3 sizes, so I can measure it and see which one, because it doesn't tell you, of course, with GM, it doesn't tell you what size it is, just like the blue one, the green one, or the red one, or whatever the 3 colors are. So I ordered all 3 of them, and then I'm just going to stick them in there and measure them and figure out which one I actually need. And then once I figure that out, then I'll order the whole set for that. And I did the same thing with the connecting rods too. So here's the factory main bolts. It's an 11mm head on this thing. Super tiny. It's like, I don't have a 1/2-inch drive 11mm socket. So I had to use a 3/8 drive 11mm, and I was able to get it off, but man, they were tight. I'm trying to use a 3/8 drive ratchet to bust off a main stud or main bolt, is difficult. These are not torque to yield though, so you can reuse these. And then here's the crank. Crank looks good. Got it out, all cleaned up. All of the journals look good. I could pretty much reuse this. I'm not planning on doing much to this. Just gonna get it cleaned up and throw it back in there. But that is the status of the block. All the bores look good. There is a ridge that's on there. I still got to clean up. I haven't really done much cleaning to this. I just blasted it with a brake clean real quick. But I did get everything off of there. There's some rust inside this water pump hole. Obviously, I need to get cleaned up there. But for the most part, it's usable. Nothing wrong with it. I can't see any noticeable cracks or anything like that. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. I don't know if there's any specific areas that you guys are wanting to look at here. There's the turbo drain. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I am going to get this shipped off to the machine shop. I'm not going to be doing any block machining myself, but I can handle cylinder head stuff. But as far as the block goes, I'm not going to do any of that myself. I'll take that to the pros. They got the big expensive tools to handle that. But I will be getting those pistons coated and ship those off to the machine shop along with this crank and the rods. And then we'll get it done professionally because I don't have $500,000 worth of machine shop tools. So anywho. All right, everybody. Well, I'm going to close this one off, but I just want to give you guys a quick update. But I guess the big question that I'm probably going to get is what turbo am I going to be running on the truck build? So with that being said, I'm probably going to run the Garrett Power Max that I got on there now. It flows like 32 pounds per minute of air, which is going to be pushing it. But I think I like the way it spools. It's good for a stock, driving around town truck, a street truck. I want to maintain the VGT functionality, the variable geometry turbo. I want to maintain that. I don't want to go with the fixed vane. It'd be sweet, but this is an emissions on truck as well. So still got all the DPF and SCR and EGR and all that fun stuff is still turned on. I'm not deleting it. So I want to keep it as stock as I want to keep all that stuff so I don't just have any issues with it. But I will be going with the big turbo for the Camaro, so just be prepared for that. People keep asking me, how much power does your turbo make? How much horsepower did you increase by, slapping that bigger turbo on there? And it's like, well, turbos don't make horsepower. Keep that in mind. Turbos produce airflow, which will keep your AFR in check, your air-fuel ratio. So fuel makes horsepower, so you need to inject more fuel to make horsepower. The turbo doesn't make horsepower. It supports more horsepower, but if you don't add fuel to the added air that you got, then you're not going to make any more horsepower. So just keep that in mind. I will be getting bigger fuel injectors for this motor. Just the 30% overs will be enough to make the power that I'm trying to make on this. But as far as the car goes and the Camaro, putting that motor in there, I will be needing the biggest and the baddest injectors that I can find. The bigger the better. That's really my limiting factor on how much horsepower I can potentially make with this motor, is how much fuel I can give it. And right now Exergy is the only company that makes a set of 100% overs right now, which is pretty big. That should be enough to make 450 on. But we'll see. We'll cross that road or cross that bridge when we get to it. But for now, Merry Christmas, everybody. Christmas is next week. Make sure you spend some time with your family. And I'll be posting another update video once I make some progress, get some more parts in. But just hang tight. I am working on it. But Merry Christmas, everybody.